What's going on, my people? I am Josh Kirby, back with you for another Kirby on Sports exclusive. You can find this video on the Kirby on Sports podcast YouTube page. A big thanks to our sponsors, as always: PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate, Baird Pest and Termite Services, Shenandoah Music, and Mark Lynch with Guild Mortgage. And folks, don't forget, Don't Sleep Energy, my guys. They are the official energy drink of the Kirby on Sports podcast. Visit them today, don'tsleepenergy.com. Use promo code Kirby for 10% off your order. I'm very excited to have a special guest on with us on this exclusive interview, Rachel Vigil. She is the host of Coffee Break, Denver Sports, home of 104.3 The Fan. She does a lot of great work for Denver Sports, I've seen. So I'm really excited to have her on this episode of Kirby on Sports exclusively on our YouTube page. That comes your way next on the Kirby on Sports podcast. Once again, a Kirby on Sports podcast exclusively on the Kirby on Sports podcast YouTube page. Let's not waste any more time. Our guest from Denver Sports, host of Coffee Break, part of 104.3 The Fan, Rachel Vigil. Rachel, good evening. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you on. I mean, it's a little bit late for coffee, but I feel like in a way I'm sort of on coffee break. But how's everything going?
Life is good. Obviously, Broncos season is winding down. I'm getting to enjoy the playoffs a little bit. We wish the Broncos were in it, but we get it. But the Nuggets, man, I think they're going to make a run for a championship. The Avs are a bit on the struggle bus right now, too. There's a lot to get into. But overall, I'm really good. I just celebrated my 27th birthday. No complaints here from me.
There you go. And sort of a late birthday present I saw at the Nuggets game the other day. You enjoyed a big bucket of popcorn. I heard that's your favorite.
I am a huge popcorn person, but like not the at-home popcorn. I'm more like a going to an event popcorn because it's always so unhealthy. It's so salty, so buttery. I love it. D-Mac surprised me with a whole thing of popcorn. And the joke was during the Stanley Cup playoffs, they would like provide us with popcorn. And so I would eat some and I would get so nervous that I would just continuously eat it. And like, it's just stuck. Now when I'm watching sports, I just eat the popcorn all the time. And I can down like one of the big containers, like nobody, I don't think can be me eating popcorn, just like sitting there, just like munching on it. I just go for it. I'm all in.
Well, Rachel, let's start things off. Obviously, I found you. This was very unique because I found you just scrolling through YouTube one day and you post amazing behind the scenes vlogs. And I'm like, man, I wish I could produce a vlog that good, which you do a great job doing. And B, just the behind the scenes content there with everything you have been doing over the past couple of months through Denver Sports, covering the Avalanche, Broncos games. You're at pretty much every Broncos game. I pretty much start off each one of these by asking my guests the same question. How do you get started in sports? What sparked your interest and passion in the world of sports?
Yes. I have been involved with sports for as long as I can remember, but knowing I wanted to get into professional sports and like collegiate sports, I went to my first Broncos game at the age of 10. And from that moment, I was like, oh my God, I want to be involved in this. So I like had always joked, I'm going to play in the NFL and I'm 5'4" and like 120 pounds. Like I would never survive. So I was like, okay, what's the next best thing that I can do? And I was like, oh, well, I see women being sideline reporters, right? And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I knew from early on that I wanted to work in sports, which, eventually it really helped me, I think, because I was able to go to college for exactly what I wanted to do. I got internships. I knew exactly what I wanted to do leading up to it. So I would just say, being around my family members who were huge into football and then just learning passions for basketball, for hockey, for everything else, and then just kind of putting it together. And that's just kind of how it grew. And I just always knew that I wanted to be in sports too. It was just the dream. And so I'm so lucky I get to live out my dream. It's crazy.
Yeah, you actually did some sideline reporting I saw, I believe via your YouTube page, back in college. Am I correct?
So I did like in arena hosting. I was the in arena host for the CSU men's and women's basketball team. So yeah, I kind of got a feel for what it was like. And then I did actual sideline reporting when I worked for the Western Athletic Conference after college. So I did that for baseball, soccer, basketball. I feel like everything in the mix. So yeah, I've kind of gotten my fair share of it. And then I've actually realized that I don't even want to do sideline reporting anymore. It's not my passion. I prefer hosting. So that's kind of what led me into Coffee Break. And, the rest is history, it kind of feels like.
Coffee break. You said earlier before we started recording that it's about to reach its 1 year mark. Just take it. I know this is probably a loaded question, but take us through some of your memorable moments on Coffee Break.
So many. I feel like recently too, it's really grown. It's really taken off. I remember when we first started, I would have like two people on it, and I was like, oh, two people are actually watching it. And then those two people would disappear, and I was like, what am I doing? And then eventually it was like 10 people watching, and I was like, oh my gosh. Eventually, 20, and it just started growing and growing and growing a little bit more. And then last month we had like almost 500,000 views on it. It was crazy. It blew my mind, and I was like, how in the world like has this created this thing, right? Like this baby of mine that I've been so passionate about and wanting to get better and better and better. And now there's a community that I can count on every single day. They pop in the comments and they say hello. People are like, I schedule my lunch around this to come hang out with you guys, and then I schedule meetings, and there's just become a community of it. And it's so cool. And I feel like that's kind of the bigger moments that I've had, where I just remember having those two people that were watching, and I was like, okay, just like keep pushing through. And now we're almost at 500,000 views for 1 month. I'm like, that is literally crazy to me to even think about. But I've had some pretty fun ones. DMAC is one of my co-hosts on there. He's fantastic. He always does crazy stuff. Like you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. I'm just lucky to work with so many different talented individuals. They make it all easy for me.
So, how'd Coffee Break start? Take us through what led you to Denver Sports and the birth of Coffee Break.
So what led me to Denver Sports, actually, it was kind of crazy. I was going through this long interview process, and I was waiting on a call from ESPN to be like part of their social team. I'd gone through this whole thing. And one day, Raj, who's our program director at 104.3 The Fan, he calls me and he's like, hey, like I heard about you. I got your number from a colleague. Like we're looking for somebody. And I was like, okay. In the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I'm going to take this ESPN one, but like, I'll sit down with you just in case I don't get it. And like went through this whole thing, sat down with him, and he was like, okay, like it's so great to meet you, whatever. He calls me like a couple hours later and he's like, hey, can I like sit down and pick your brain again? And I was like, sure, like absolutely. And I'm still waiting for the ESPN call, because I'm like, okay, like let's go to ESPN. ESPN actually, I told him, well, first of all, the Fan gave me the job, and I was like, like, can I have the weekend? I'm like waiting on this other thing too. And they were like, sure. And I just knew they really wanted me. Like I could just tell that they were like super passionate, and they like believed in me at 100%. And then that weekend I had emailed the producer over at 104 or ESPN, excuse me. And I was like, hey, like I have another job opportunity. Like what's going on here? And he texted me back and he was like, you'll have somebody calling you from HR in the next 30 minutes. And I was like, holy smokes, like I just got the job at ESPN, like what on earth? And I'm sitting on the phone with the woman and she's going through all these things and like all the business sides. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, but I'm going to be able to be on camera, right? Like at the end of the day, like those are the ideas I pitched to you guys. And she's like, I'm not 100% sure. And I was like, well, what do you mean you're not 100% sure? And she's like, I'm just not 100%. I was like, well, if you're not 100%, like I'm not doing this job. And I turned it down and I called Raj and 104 Through the Fan. And I was like, hey, like I'm yours. Let's do this. Like I have all these ideas. I know like the big markets, national markets also like these ideas too, because that's what I pitched to him. So I was like, let's freaking do it. Like I got this whole thing. And so he was like so happy and I was so excited. And I just never had imagined that I would turn down such a national company. And honestly, I'm so glad I did. Like I love my job. It is literally such a good, fun job. I have so much freedom, so much creativity. And that's kind of how Coffee Break came about, where I was like, I want to host something like every single day. I want to build this community. I don't just want to be the social media girl. And so we came up with Coffee Break and, it just kind of blossomed from there. I've learned so much, it's constantly changing all the time, but we're finding things that are sticking and people are hanging around and it's just all starting to work and it's built that community that I was hoping it would. And so I'm excited to see what the future is going to behold. So that was a really long-winded answer to your question, but that's kind of ultimately what led me to here.
Yeah, so you talk about it's yours and the creativity you can put in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you sort of gauge that off of, like just viewer response to it? Because I'm sure with your baby, you can do a lot to it. In your baby, I'm referring to Coffee Break, obviously, but like just the stuff you try to put into it. What's sort of like logistically the decision making that goes into what you would like to see on Coffee Break and what you're like, this might not be a good idea.
Yeah, when we first started it, I was like, I want it to be like a little mini TV show that anyone can watch, right? Like I want to have clips from players. I want to have the audio stuff like that we're all reacting to. And it's just changed from that because people, to be honest, they don't really care what a lot of coaches or players or anybody has to say. They care about what you have to say and your reaction to it. So we used to play clips that were like 2 minutes long of, somebody talking. And now I'm like, no more than 20 seconds at all because people don't care. People tune out after 20 seconds. So I want to keep people's attention. So the way I kind of gauge the interest in it is, of course, by viewership numbers, right? Like the more you see those go up, you're like, oh, the more people are getting familiar with the brand. But it's also the comments and the engagements. And when we say something, like people laugh in the comments or we ask a question and I'm like, hey, like, what do you all think? And they respond in the comments. And so that's cool. But that's like my biggest thing. And you're going to hear me say a lot, community is really what I wanted out of this. And it's just starting to build right now. Like I can just see it. I can feel it. We have those people that tune in every day, that community, it's there and it's growing. So it's exciting.
That is very great to hear. And just my side too, sort of a podcast. I know radio is sort of different than podcasting, but in a way it's similar. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard one person say, the voice of the Washington Commanders, Bram Weinstein, and this will always stick. Podcasting is radio, but there are less gatekeepers and you have the freedom to do more. So I respect what you do over there at Coffee Break. I know I'm not a Denver fan, but yeah, I've tuned in ever since I started like watching your vlogs and stuff. I'm like, this is some good stuff. And I mean, it just gives me some info about Denver sports so I can make my podcast more, viewer friendly to anybody who likes any team. So I applaud you for that. I definitely know where you're coming from, trying to make content more accessible and just for everybody. And it's just so much fun just doing stuff like this. And it's great. So obviously Denver sports. I know probably you were on air, I think, when Nathaniel Hackett got fired. Am I right there?
You are. Yeah, we were live on Coffee Break and
How was that? How was that? I gotta ask.
my coworker James, we were all kind of waiting and it didn't happen super early. So we were like, oh, it's not going to happen. Like usually when coaches get fired, you find out at like 7 a.m. Mountain Time and we're like, oh no, like it's not going to happen. And my coworker James is on with me and DMAC and he like pops up his phone and he's like, hey, And we're like, what? And he's like, it just happened. Like Nathaniel Hackett fired. And we're like, oh my gosh. So, our show was supposed to end, I think like 20 minutes later. And we're like, all right, like, let's just keep going. And, it honestly, as bad as this kind of sounds, Josh, that helped my coffee break numbers so much, right? Because people are checking on their phone and then they're seeing coffee break and they were like, oh, like, what is this thing that I've never really heard of? And we saw the numbers grow a lot there. So it's hard because it's somebody's family and somebody who's actually losing their job, but it just didn't feel like Nathaniel Hackett was the right fit for this. And we're going to find out next season if it was Hackett was the problem, Russell Wilson was the problem, what the actual problem was. But it just didn't seem like things were going really well. And we obviously saw the offense really pick up after Hackett was fired. So it's going to be interesting next season because a lot of people still believe, the problem is Russell Wilson and he's just not the QB that he was in Seattle. But it's really weird to be on air live and find out, somebody just lost their job, somebody's family just lost their job. But at the same time, you're like, oh, this is good news for the organization at the same time.
Well, it seemed like the Broncos, they were slated to have such a good season because Russell Wilson, you look at Russell Wilson and what he's done in his whole career at Seattle, and a new head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, which at the time I really knew nothing about him, but the season, and you've been at almost every game, Rachel, just 5-12, last place in the AFC West. A lot of disappointment, I would say, for fans of Bronco country. Sort of sum up what you took out of this season from the Broncos.
Yeah, there's a ton of disappointment. And I think that's why Hackett initially got fired before the season was over, because this has never really happened to the Denver Broncos. Like, they've never been the laughing stock of the entire country. And it's unfortunate because the schedule makers put them in so many primetime games. So many people got to watch them fail. And I think that's ultimately kind of what hurt them too, is, the whole country watched them fail on numerous times. And it's just like a face slap back and forth. And so Broncos country, I think, was just done with it. And we were seeing, people not go to games and people just giving away their tickets. And I think the ownership was like, this isn't what we want. It's a brand new ownership in the Walton Penner Group. They said, no, this isn't the first year how we want to start out things. And it was tough. I mean, I grew up being a Denver Bronco fan. Like, that's the reason I got into sports. So to hear us be I say us, it's like me as a fan too, to hear it be the laughing stock of the entire NFL, I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's not what I want. That's not what Broncos country wants. So it was tough. It was a hard year. And I think those expectations came because of Russell Wilson. So I think Nathaniel Hackett ultimately got the short end of the stick, unfortunately, because I think if they would have had a Teddy Bridgewater or a Drew Lock, he would still have his job. But because of the high expectations that Russell Wilson brought in when he got traded here, I think ultimately it just was never going to work out. And again, we're going to see who really was the problem. Was it Hackett or was it Russell Wilson next season?
I forgot to mention, you've done some live stuff at Mile High for the Broncos post game, I believe halftime and post game. I'm not sure about pregame, but you were at in the press box, excuse me, for almost every game. Take us through a game day for you, what it's like prepping, getting ready for all those shows, sitting in the press box. And I've seen all the food you've had in the press box. It looks like they treat you all well up there.
Okay, I will say the food does look really good on camera. Sometimes the quality and the taste isn't what you would expect. But nonetheless, it's a free meal, so I really won't complain. But I usually get to the stadium like 2 hours or so before kick. And, I do the food tour or whatever I'm going to do for on camera stuff and then get ready for kick. We usually get this whole batch of paperwork too. So we go over that. I eat, I get ready. We've got some graphics that have to make sure that they go out before the game. So I make sure everything is set on that. I create all the links for all of our shows. We would do pregame at different times depending on it. And then they always did. So if I was at the stadium, my coworkers would all do halftime chill. I would just watch over, make sure everything was good, watch second half. And then DMAC and I would go down to the field and we would do post game. we would have different people hop on, James Marilat specifically, to do like tell us what Hackett said, or Jerry Rosberg after Hackett got fired. And that was kind of our post-game show. It usually lasted between 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, on some of the crazier games. And it was just a way to, again, build that community with Broncos fans and allow them to talk about, how angry they were, or how, hopeful they were, or whatever it was going to be. So that was like a typical game day routine for me. And it's fun. It's really fun to go down there. Of course, it would be a lot more fun if they were winning a lot of games. Like that environment, when you're going to be like a playoff team, that's the environment I think you want. But ultimately, it's still fun, and it's still my job, so I really can't complain.
So tell me, since Hackett got fired, Rosberg came in and took over. It seemed like he was, sort of I know it was a short end of the season in terms of how many games he had to coach, but it seemed like he was trying to just hype the team up, trying to get them to win. And the Broncos kept it close in a couple of those days. How do you think he helped coming in for Hackett? And did you see anything different when he was coaching than when Hackett was coaching?
The biggest criticism that Nathaniel Hackett got was essentially he tried to be everybody's best friend. And when you're in a power position, you can't be everybody's best friend. And I think that's what we saw with Jerry. Is he came in first day, he's only there for 2 weeks. He was going against the Chiefs and the Chargers. He was there for 2 weeks, and he still made changes. He cut the special teams coordinator, essentially. He removed the punt returner. Like, he was a special teams guy, so that was his like bread and butter. But he was willing to make those big decisions, and he brought in players that hadn't been playing and etc. Like, he truthfully went all in and was like, hey, I'm going to be the head coach for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to build this team exactly how I want to do it, and that's going to be that. So that was always the biggest criticism for Hackett, was that he was trying to be everybody's friend. And Jerry Rosberg was like, no, I'm going to be the man in charge. And so they did. I mean, they kept it close against the Chiefs. I think a little bit of that was the Chiefs didn't know what to expect. Like, there was no game plan because it's a completely different staff almost at that point. Justin Mountain was calling plays, which he hadn't done. So I don't think the Chiefs really knew what to expect. I feel like if it would have been Hackett, we probably would have saw a lot, because you kind of know what to game plan for. And then against the Chargers, I think that the Chargers just always charger. I think I'm shocked that Brandon Staley still has a job after their playoff game. That's a whole other conversation we could get into. I can't believe it. But the Chargers just always charger. And so somehow the Broncos walked away with a win. And that's it at the end of the day, I guess. You end your season on a good note.
Absolutely. So the Broncos finish off in last place. Only time will tell, as you said, how the Broncos might fare next season. Maybe a good draft class, who knows? But other Denver sports, let's just get into some more Denver sports. The Nuggets, first place in the Western Conference. They're on fire right now. I haven't really been paying much attention to the NBA, but anytime I do, Jokic is on the top of the list because of how well he's been playing recently.
He is insane. I don't think we understand the level of greatness that we're actually watching. And what's weird is, because he's not this person who's all over the media, like, I feel like the country can't really fall in love with him. And so we're not seeing quite the hype around him that we would if he was like a Steph Curry, right? He was at the media and he was like cracking all these jokes or whatever. I truthfully think that as long as he stays healthy, he's going to win his third MVP, which is insane to even think about. And I don't think he cares one bit about MVP. He just wants to win a championship. And I think that makes it so special. And I think I don't want to ever get ahead of myself and somebody come back and be like, you jinxed him. But if I had to put my money down, I don't think any team can stop this Denver Nuggets team in a 7-game series when it comes to the playoffs. So I'm like, let's go. Like, everyone said, let's ride for the Broncos. I'm like, let's ride. Let's everybody get on this Nuggets train, because I think it's going to be a really fun spring and summer.
I know Jokic is just one player, but it looks like the players around him also making an impact too. And just when he's doing well, it looks like the players around him are doing well as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of the crazy thing with Jokic, is he puts up these insane numbers, these triple-double left and right. But he is so just like, let me give you the ball, right? Like, he's just he doesn't need it. He doesn't need the points, whatever. He just will give it away to whoever can take the best shot. He's not selfish at all when it comes to the game of basketball. And I think that's what all makes him unique as well. So he just goes and he gives it to MPJ. He'll give it to Jamal, Bones Highland, like whoever it's going to be at the end of the day. He is just so not selfish with the basketball. And I think that too adds to the level of greatness that he is. And it kind of gives Jamal a chance to shine. It gives MPJ or Bones Highland, Zeke Naji, like whoever it's going to be. Not that Zeke and him are ever in at the same time, really, but it gives them that opportunity to be great as well.
So from the Nuggets to the reigning Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, you mentioned that their season hasn't been so well. Just take me through. I'm sure you've done a little bit of coverage. I know wrapping up football season, but what have you taken away so far from this season for the Avalanche?
Oh man, injuries are tough. They should have kept Nazem Kadri. Those are kind of the big two takeaways. I think they're really hurting without Nazem Kadri, so it makes you wonder, like, are they regretting this a little bit? Would they still be that same dominant team they would if they would have kept him? It sucks because you're also like they haven't had Gabe Landeskog at all. He was supposed to come back like right around this time. We're not supposed to see him for at least another month, but he's not even skating. So it's like, where are those pieces? And Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, like everybody's been hurt too at different points. It just seems like they can't stay healthy at all. The one bright spot is Mikko Rantanen. He's been phenomenal all season long. So he's continuing to, shine a little bit more and have that opportunity when Nathan McKinnon or Cale Makar, Gabe Landeskog, those big names aren't out there. Like Mikko has really risen to the occasion and he's grown a ton. So that's been good. But I don't see the Avs repeating as Stanley Cup champions this year. If they did, oh my gosh, it would be crazy here in Denver. But I think that kind of just shows what Tampa Bay did the last 3 years is honestly incredible for the fact that they were the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And then they went back to the finals again. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, they won the Stanley Cup last year. Colorado went crazy. Denver went crazy. You covered the parade. Just take us through some of those moments when they won the Stanley Cup, because I'm sure you were there covering that run.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's how I ate so much popcorn because it went to so many games. It was honestly a long stretch, and I feel like I was so incredibly grateful. But when you're going through it, you're like, okay, I've got to work all day this day, but also like all night because there's a game. Like there's this intensity to it. It was so much fun. The parade was a blast. I know for a lot of people that didn't have press passes, they were like, oh my gosh, we didn't get to see like the people we wanted. But for me personally, I had a press pass. I was just running around in the streets with like all the fire trucks and like shoving my camera up in people's faces. And like, they were all so happy. So they were willing to talk and say whatever. It was so much fun. I wish everybody could experience it in life because you don't, especially too, this is one of the reasons I didn't want to get into sideline reporting, kind of coming full circle on it, is a lot of times when you talk to athletes, they don't want to talk to you. Coaches, they don't want to talk to you. Like I've always wanted to like have conversations with people who wanted to have conversations. It makes a world of difference. And so to have the athletes be so open and be willing to talk, like that was just a memorable moment because a lot of times they're shut down. They give very basic, mediocre answers. But there they were just free flowing. They were willing to tell us anything and everything. It was so much fun. The parade was a highlight of my career for sure.
Well, I will say winning a Stanley Cup's fun, but nobody has partied harder than the 2018 Washington Capitals. I'm just throwing that out there.
We've heard that. Yeah, we've heard those
Yeah.
stories.
Oh, yeah. And the greatest goal scorer of all time, Alexander Ovechkin. I'm not sure if he's been up there to Colorado or if they faced each other, but I know he's fun to watch too. If you ever get a chance to watch Ovechkin in that Caps team, it's just crazy to see how well they're doing right now.
For sure. And yeah, I have had the opportunity to watch him. He is definitely one of those things. Like he's up there, with the Nathan McKinnons and like those big names. Like even if people who don't watch hockey every single day, they know that name just because of how talented he is and how dominant he can be at times as well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy too in hockey. I'm not sure how it is for the Avalanche, but the Capitals practice on a ice rink on the 8th floor of a parking garage in Arlington. And it's pretty cool because you can go in there and just watch practice for free. So when I'm available, I go out there and watch practice, and
Mhm.
it's just so cool to see all these players practicing, and it's usually for an hour, hour and a half. You see
Mhm.
all these big names, and you just see the amount of work they put in. And hockey, that in going back to your one point about how the Lightning you went back to back Stanley Cup champions, it's so tough to do in the NHL.
It's so hard. And that's actually so funny you say that they practice on the eighth floor of a parking complex because the Avs practice at like a family sport. Like there's kids playing skee ball in like the area next to them. It's like this big family arcade
Oh,
place. And so
wow.
everyone's always like, are you kidding me? They're the Stanley Cup champions, and there's kids playing skee ball for like an eighth birthday down like the hallway. So that's crazy. I always just was like, man, the Kroenkes need to like pay up a little bit, but that's nuts that happens with the Capitals too.
Well, it's a multi-use facility, so people go
Yeah.
in and skate when the caps aren't there. But I think it might bite me for saying this, but the NHL is very relaxed when it comes to, or the teams are very relaxed when it comes to watching practice because afterwards you can see the players walk right out. I got a picture with Lars Eller on the sidewalk for
Yeah.
crying out loud, and I'm like, they must be very relaxed because in the NFL, it's just not any day you can walk out onto a practice field.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh my
you,
gosh, no.
you know, it's like stuff like that that keeps the fans engaged and like what's going on with the Caps. And it in any hockey team that does that, I just think it's class that they do something like that because it's so much fun to go out and watch.
For
Because
sure.
that's what makes hockey so hard. But it's crazy to see. But the Avalanche, though, hopefully they can rebound it back because they had a good team for that Stanley Cup run. But who knows? It's just very interesting to see. But I mean, it's been a lot of fun with you today, Rachel. That's about all the time we have. But before we let you go, before we end this, tell us where to find you, where to find Coffee Break, and what's new and brewing on Coffee Break this upcoming week.
Yeah, so you can check us out if you go to denversports.com. There's like a whole section you can watch past episodes, but you can follow us on Denver Sports Comms, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We go live 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time every single day. It's an absolute blast, 45 minutes of just straight sports talk in Denver. So if you're a Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets fan, Rockies even, I don't talk a lot of baseball, but some of my coworkers do for sure. And the Buffs too. I can't forget about them and Coach Prime and the craziness that is happening in Boulder. And then you can also follow me on Twitter at Hey Rachel Vigil. Super easy. Love to chat with anybody who's a Broncos fan or honestly just a sports fan in general. So thank you so much, Josh, for having me on, though. An absolute blast. And yeah, good things to come for Coffee Break. People are going to be surprised of some upcoming changes in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Coach Prime. Your thoughts on that really quick?
So it kills me because I'm a CSU Ram. So like I'm the rivalry that is in Colorado in the sports. So it kills me a little bit. It's great for the state of Colorado. It's bringing so much national attention. I just have been warning people because people are like, we're talking national championship with Coach Prime, like that they're going all in. This is going to be incredible. We all thought the same thing with Russell Wilson, right? A big celebrity comes in. We're like, oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. So I try to tell people, like, let's get through training camp. Let's get through the first couple of games and see what we've got cooking up there in Boulder. So I'm happy for the state of Colorado as a CSU alum. It hurts my heart a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm excited.
So a big thanks to all of our sponsors, Don't Sleep Energy, and to you, Rachel. It was a blast chopping it up with you today, and hopefully we can do it again really soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Until next time, we say so long and peace out.